Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And you know, there's one simple fact that is just so self-evident. It's just staring at us all. And that is the huge disconnect that these ANC leaders have with the reality of what their actions are doing to South Africa. And right now, people like Magashula in the background are lobbying to get rid of Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, look, Ramaphosa is not the most honest man in the world, let's face it. But Magashula is the epitome of a gangster. Imagine him and David Mabuza, another gangster, basically being in control of the country. You know what Moody's would do with that? It wouldn't just be junk. The rand would follow the Zim dollar so fast. But these idiots at the top of the ANC have absolutely no logic. The old factor is completely missing in action. They can't understand the ramifications of their actions. And let me add a bit more meat to the bone so you understand what could be a huge crisis in South Africa this year. And it's all coming up to June, when the National Executive Committee of the ANC are holding a meeting. What are South Africans to make of the murmurs that its governing party, the African National Congress, plans to recall Cyril Ramaphosa as President of the Republic at its next General Council in June? That's where the party will meet to review if government has implemented its policies. Apparently, the motivation for the removal will be that Ramaphosa has not implemented the party's 2017 National Conference resolutions. The mere suggestion of a recall is not surprising. The ANC has recalled two of its four previous presidents, Thabo Mbeki in 2008 and Jacob Zuma early last year. And, like his predecessors, Ramaphosa has formidable detractors within the party who see him as a menace to their livelihood and freedom. There's no doubting their determination to throttle the success of this presidency. But Ramaphosa's detractors are unlikely to succeed in their rumoured bid, and their failure will not be because they've suddenly become weak within the administration. On the contrary, ANC Secretary-General Magashula, Ramaphosa's main nemesis, is much stronger now than he's ever been. He has appointed multiple individuals to bolster his grip. These are all individuals who have been marginalized by Ramaphosa's presidency on account of malfeasance and as a result are simply opposed to his presidency. They include former cabinet ministers Nomvula Mokonyane, Malusi Gigaba and Des Van Rooyen. Conversely, Ramaphosa's influence in the ANC's administration has been weakened by the departure of Zizi Kodwa, Senzo Mkhuna and Fikile Mbalula from the ANC's headquarters to cabinet. The odds against Ramaphosa's removal lie in several factors. These relate to the weakness of the supposed gripe, its timing, and the likely backlash. The complaint that Ramaphosa's presidency has not implemented its conference resolutions, especially on the expropriation of land without compensation, and nationalization of the South African Reserve Bank is unconvincing and self-implicating. Now, if you want to destroy a country, just nationalize the South African Reserve Bank. Because when you look at how corrupt this ANC government is, any investor with half a brain will say, I'm out of there. Yeah, that's the end of the South African economy. It'll have a bigger impact than Eskom closing down, I'll tell you right now. Anyway, these guys are just so stupid. I'm talking about the ANC leadership. Ramaphosa has been persistently vocal on the land question, and Parliament is currently considering a bill to give effect to the resolution. Deliberations on the bill consider both fair and reasonable compensation as well as expropriation in the instance of refusing a fair price. Both these considerations are in line with the caution of the resolution that the land question be handled in a way that redresses the injustice of dispossession without disrupting food display. Now, I need to just touch on this subject. The injustice of dispossession. I saw a very interesting chart just yesterday. The white population in South Africa actually only own about 22% of the land in South Africa. That's about 1 in 5 acres. Okay? Now, half of that land, it comes to something like 26 million hectares that the white population actually have title deeds over. About half of that land, or about 12 million hectares, are in the area in the Northern Cape, which is arid. You can basically do nothing but have livestock on there, and you need huge farms to actually support your livestock. And we know the droughts that the Northern Cape's been going through. The arable land, the good land, is largely in KwaZulu-Natal, and guess who owns most of it? Yeah, you got it right. The king of the Zulus through the trust. And, of course, there's a large amount of black ownership of land right through that very fertile area. So what you've got is, if you actually look at things in context, most of the land owned by the white population is in arid areas, unproductive areas, and the productive lands are already in the hands of the blacks. But this whole issue about land ownership is a complete furphy. Let's get back to this. A similar commitment is evident on the central bank. Ramaphosa has reiterated the intention to put the bank under public ownership, but only if there's money to buy out the private shareholders. For any criticism on this point to gain support within the rank and file of the ANC, it must make a case for urgency and identify funds that should be diverted from what most would view as more pressing matters. This will be difficult. Firstly, it's proving hard to show that public ownership of the bank will allow government to influence the bank's decisions. Even under state ownership, the resolution insists that the bank should still remain independent, which is also guaranteed by the Constitution. This question, the rationale for insisting on ownership without influence. The truth is that the idea has little to do with policy. It was originally mooted by those wanting to protect the Gupta family as allegations of state capture mounted. The family's beneficiaries in the ANC sought to gain control of the central bank so that its regulatory powers could be used to punish commercial banks that were closing the family's accounts. These efforts backfired. The Gupta proxies could not mount a convincing argument for removing the independence of the central bank. Now they have a resolution that is meaningless, but are simply insisting on a fake bravado. Besides the weakness of their gripe, Ramaphosa's detractors are vulnerable on the same point they wish to use against him. There's little movement on organised reforms. These relate to, amongst others, modernising registration for party membership by taking it online to minimise manipulation. Another is to bolster the powers of the party's Integrity Commission by making it recommendations binding, as resolved by the conference. These are all administrative matters that are handled by the Secretary-General, Magashula. He is actually guilty of the charge that he seeks to throw at Ramaphosa. Nor is the timing for removing Ramaphosa suitable. Local government elections are scheduled for next year. Most ANC-controlled municipalities are plagued by maladministration and corruption is rife, and no one ever gets charged. Well, we covered the reasons behind that just yesterday with that High Court judge who's been put through hell when she decided that a case against Julius Malema should be heard. Of course, she lost her job, and Malema never went to trial on the South African Reserve Service issue. Okay, let's get back to the story here. The blame lies squarely with the ruling party. Take the Eastern Cape's Makana municipality, for instance. The party ran that municipality into the ground, and the provincial government, which has a responsibility to intervene, did nothing. It took the High Court to stem the rot by ordering that the council be dissolved and the municipality be put under administration for failing to promote a healthy and sustainable environment for the community. Ramaphosa is currently leading an initiative that involves all levels of government to aid struggling municipalities. This initiative will most likely become the mainstay of the election campaign next year. The ANC is desperate to improve on the lowly 54% it received in 2016. Now, the easiest way to stop the rot is to get rid of black economic empowerment and put in people into these municipalities who are not corrupt and who are not incompetent, which is the current case in most of these municipalities around South Africa. And I always use the example of Orania, the only municipality in the country that is running smoothly. Guess what? It's the only municipality in the country that is run by a minority group known as the white population. You join the dots. The various steps that Ramaphosa has taken, combined with his broader reform agenda, makes anyone who suggests his removal look deranged. Most in the ANC would be wrong-headed, but still want to remain in power. To retain power, they accept that they need a Ramaphosa. That said, Ramaphosa's re-election at the next ANC conference in 2022 is not guaranteed. Prospects of Ramaphosa's re-election hinge on his public ratings. He is more popular outside the ANC. That's why the ANC elected him in 2017 to win the 2019 elections. Once it appears that Ramaphosa no longer enjoys better public ratings, he stands a high risk of not being re-elected party president, especially if the membership system remains unchanged. Most current members are rented, paid by one faction or another, to vote in one way or another. Given this risk, it goes without saying that Ramaphosa needs to accelerate reforms. Most urgent is improving operations at the power utility Eskom. Power blackouts are the biggest source of unhappiness and are spoiling the public mood. More importantly, they disrupt economic activity, leading to retrenchments. This in turn stifles the major promise of his presidency, job creation. Now, that promise has been a complete disaster. The unemployment rate in South Africa is going through the roof. Unfortunately, reducing unemployment will take a while to achieve. This then makes fighting corruption and the actual conviction of those implicated key issues that will retain public support behind him. Now, that's the critical thing, the actual conviction of those implicated. And this is why that case with that High Court judge is so important, because you can see the political interference at all levels in the judicial system in South Africa. Anyway, Ramaphosa needs to urgently take drastic measures to strengthen law enforcement agencies, which he won't do. National Director of Public Prosecutions, Shamila Batohi, continues to face resistance, for instance, from some prosecutors within the National Prosecuting Authority. They are stifling attempts at prosecuting cases arising out of state capture. Ultimately, though, it is critical that Ramaphosa appreciates that salvation lies outside the ANC rather than inside. He has to please the public more than his party. Public approval is his defense against the enemies within. So, I can't fault that. That's basically the only thing he's got going for him. There's some very powerful forces in the ANC leadership who want him out of there, They want the gangsters to rule. And we know who they are. All right, guys, please subscribe to be kept informed. Ring the bell to get all the updates. Please like this video. Please share this video. And above all, please stay safe.